Hello, it's Melinda from Scrapbookingncraft. How you going? And welcome back to the 4th day of classes for the Great International Craft Show in April-May 2021. Wow, the last 3 days have flown by. They have been so much fun but very tiring, just like a normal show or an in-person show. So today with our 4th class, I thought I'd do a bit more relaxing and come back to my roots or what I love to do is art journaling, and art journaling is just about play. So I've used some of my white dome, well, they were white, now they're black, dome mixed media cutouts on this layer and one of my stencils. So without further ado, let's get started and have some art journaling fun. So let's get this art journal started. So as you saw in the example that you've just seen photos or a small video clip of, I'm going to use these white cutout mixed media cardstock pieces that I sell in my store. So this is one version and this is the other version. Not quite sure which one I'm going to use today. I've got an idea. I'm going to do something a bit more abstract, which is not usually what I do, but let's give it a go. So abstract is fun, so I'm going to use these as my main focal images, and these just basically snip apart. It's easy to pick them up out of the machine and bag them up as one piece, and they just have little interconnecting bits of paper that you cut out. So what ones am I going to use today? Actually, I might use this one. So they do have a right and a wrong side, but in saying that, well, most of these you can flip over the other side. It doesn't matter. Most of those ones are reversible as well. So the wrong side has a bit of like brown marks on it. These are laser cut, so that's not a hassle. We're going to paint these anyway. So I'm thinking, I'm working on a 9 by 12 piece of watercolor paper. So I'm thinking I want this one down here. So all you do is, I put the joining marks on the flat bits. All you do is run your scissors along and snip them out. This one's gone in my box because the edge did not cut properly, just the frame around the edge. It just holds them together. I get all the goofed up pieces in my box to play with. They're perfectly fine. It's just I usually don't put them out for sale when they don't have their full border on them. Do I have my bucket for my rubbish? Of course not. Let's put it down this other bucket. So I'm going to put this one up here, and I want a few of these little ones, I think. So I'm looking at designing a few more of these sheets of shapes just because they're easier for me to cut, and they're great value for money instead of buying individual shapes. So I'm going to have a big one there. I want to utilise some of these little ones, so just pay attention to all those little bits that are on there. So I'm going to do sort of a cluster here, and then I'm going to do a little cluster up here. So maybe that one will hang there. Maybe they look like bird cages when they're hanging. They're just, it's going to be an abstract thing today. Abstract and not thinking a lot in your art journal, it's always good. And maybe this one here, and maybe this one and this one, something like this. Okay. So I just want to make sure I cut off these tabs before I start, because I have been known to stick them on my project with these tabs still on it. Sometimes I forget that they are on there. Washi tape just going to roll away. So all these shapes are great for art journaling because they're made of 400 GSM cardstock. They're not as thick as our 1.8mm chipboard. I love my chipboard, but I find in my art journal they are just a bit... I threw away the one I was going to use. Which one was I going to use? No, I think I'm going to use this one. So all of our designs on our website are available in the 400 mixed media cardstock. I just don't have them all listed for sale. So I've sort of got my placement, and I've got 4 shapes to use on another project. So they are very economical. A lot of these big ones I only use on one project. So out of one sheet, you'll get like 4 different projects, which would be really good. So I've decided I'm going to use my Delusions Paint. So let me just grab out some of my Delusions Paints. Just got a little drawer, a little thing in front of me. Yeah, I have a few of these. I keep adding to my collection. Is that it? That's it. Okay, what colours? So I want these to have sort of quite a pop of colour. So usually I will keep within a warm palette which is sort of your reds, pinks and purples and oranges and yellows, or in a cool palette. But I'm going to do a bit of a sort of a rainbowy sort of palette. Oh, I'm liking the look of those 4 colours. Sometimes I just throw all my paints out on my page and then decide which ones go with which. And I might throw a blue in there or a green. Actually, I think I'm liking these 6 colours. Or we throw a blue. We need a blue. What blue have we got? We've got this one. That is going to be an interesting blue because I think that is... As you can see, I like blue and green. I really don't, but I've amassed a collection of blue and green paints. So I get all my paints from Hillbilly Scrapping. She has the entire range of these delusional paints. Delusional paints. Paints by Diane Riegel in the Delusions brand. Actually, I think I have too many colours. Let's take that one out. And I usually like an odd number and I've got 6. But I like them all. I think I like this colour combination. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm sort of wanting to do sort of a piece down here and sort of a bit of an accent up here where my little cathedral windows are going to sit on. So I'm going to start with my lightest colour. I'm all about finger painting lately. If you don't want to finger paint, you can just do it with a brush. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit out into 3 spots. And just going to sort of, I'm going to turn my page around. So this colour is Lemon Drop. I believe this might be one of the neons. Is Lemon Drop a neon? So Delusions Paint's are semi-transparent anyway, but she does have some and that's very bright, so I think it's a neon. That's right, we're going to cover some of it up. A bit brighter than I expected. I need my baby wipes. Can't have an art journal page without baby wipes. Either to use to spread your paint or to clean up your fingers. So what I wanted to do is just dig out my heat tool, which is now under a pile of stuff. Just want to give these a little bit of a dry. Not drying them completely, just because I don't want the colours really to mix. That much when I put them on, so they're not completely dry. Now we're going to do orange, and I am going to work on an angle. It's just easier for me sometimes when I'm finger painting to do it on an angle. So I'm just making sure I put the paint in 3 different sections, and I'm going to overlap some of the yellow. I'm sort of wanting to bring down here. I want to keep this corner sort of white and a bit of white through here. I don't do a lot of white space on my layouts. I'm trying to improve that. So leaving white space on your layout leaves your eye somewhere to rest. So just give that a quick little bit of a buzz. Just got to be careful when you're doing some paint colours. You want to completely dry it so they don't mix and make mud. Probably don't need to put a blob. So I should tell you what colours I'm using. So the first one was Lemon Drop. The second orange one was Squeezed Orange, appropriately named. This purple colour one I've put out is Funky Fuchsia. So sometimes the more you spread out Delusions paints, they do become a bit transparent, which is okay. So if you want a more of an intense colour, you can go over and do it a second time. I'm sort of liking how that's going, just building up a bit of colour. Sort of more wanting to get the edges dry than the whole thing dry. So now purple. So I'm going to put the purple over this side, just tiny little amounts. I like to squeeze it straight on my page, and I'm lazy and I don't have to clean up. And the purple is crushed grape. So I'm being a bit lazy, so I don't have to clean up a paint palette. It's something about getting paint on your fingers and connecting with your artwork that I really like about art journaling. So I will often start my backgrounds with finger painting. And I find I have a lot more control over the paint if I finger paint, if that makes sense. I'm going to move my keyboard out of the way. So I'm going to be adding all sorts of bits of texture and toning this down with some black. So it is quite loud at the moment, but that's okay. I like loud colours. I'm going to show you how to tone all this down in a minute. Usually I wouldn't sort of use this many rainbowy colours on a page, but I decided to today. There's really no specific rules in art journaling. There's a few guidelines, like if we don't dry between colours and we put on a colour that will make mud next to another colour, we'll make like a brownie mud, which is not what we want to do. But art journaling is all about playing and having fun. Keep forgetting to tell you the colours if you'd like to know. That was Polished Jade. The last one is Blue Hawaiian. So I'm going to add some Blue Hawaiian just here. Again, sort of in 3 spots. And I might just bring a tiny bit of this over here because I don't want much of it at all. So I want to leave a bit of, this one is one of the cocktails. So as you can see, it is quite transparent, I believe. I believe all the cocktail ones are sort of named after cocktails. So they are more translucent because they're sort of floral colours. So this time I want to totally dry my paints off before I go on to my next step. So I'm just going to pause the video. Every time I say I'm going to pause the video for you, it's just going to roll straight into the next clip. But in case I change what I've got here or take this away and bring something else in I'm going to work on and then put back onto here, the video jumps around a bit. So I just like to let you know that you're not missing a bit or something, if that makes sense. It's clear as mud. Right. It's the 4th class I've filmed in a row. I'm getting a bit tongue-tied. Back in a minute when this is totally... Now, this is completely dry, and what I like to do is also dry it from the back as well. Your page may start to curl a bit. This is watercolour paper, so it's about 300 GSM. So you want to work on a nice stable bit of paper. Not sure whether I said that at the start. So this is all dry now. We want to... Actually, it's a tiny bit wet up the top. It's being a bit stubborn. So I've got these washi tapes on my desk from a demonstration I did for another project I did. So let's use some of those. So we're just going to add some texture into this. So mixed media and art journaling is all about building up layers. So this is like layer 1. So we're going to add a bit of washi tape in. Washi tape is like coloured sticky tape, and even though it's coloured sticky tape, I still like to glue it down with my multi-matte medium or gel medium because, let's face it, these rolls are a little old. I'm trying to use up my stash this year. I have went through a washi tape phase. I had to have one of every roll when it was quite popular years ago, and I'm finding a few of my rolls are losing their stickiness, and washi tape is a low tack tape anyway, so it doesn't like to go over paint and stuff. Doesn't like to go over paint and stuff anyway, so we do need to add some gel medium or a glue stick or some sort of glue. Now I like this matte medium. I get this from Hillbilly Scrapping as well. So if you don't have washi tape, you can substitute with strips of paper, like scraps of paper. Basically washi tape is like just pattern paper. So I'm just going to tear off a bit. What I like to do with the washi tape is, if it's going to be nice, and some tear better than others, I like to sort of tear it in, well, not really in half, but attempt to tear it into 2 pieces. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go completely straight, and this one doesn't like. Usually you can just tear them straight down. This one is just being a bit of an issue, but I like to add sort of just little bits. And not, sometimes I add it as the full sheet, sometimes, and this time I'm going to add it near it. And the washi tape is semi-transparent. So it'll sort of pick up the colour that is underneath it. So I'm just putting a bit of gel medium, and this dries matte, so it dries almost clear. You won't see it. And I just go over the top. So you can see that washi tape is darker here where it went over the darker green, and it's lighter here. So that's a fun thing about washi tape. It is translucent, and I love my thick roll of stripes, and it's nearly finished. I'm a bit sad when this one's finished, but that means there might be space in my collection for another roll. So my goal this year is to dive into my stash and find all these treasures I've bought and use them up, because products do have shelf lives. Obviously paper and chipboard and stencils and stuff that I sell in my store will be there until the end of time, but you have to watch some products are consumable within your stash. And sometimes it's like Christmas, going through some boxes or a drawer of stuff you haven't opened for a while and go, oh, I didn't know I had that. And it's like having it all new again. So I want to be very sparing with this one because it's such a dark pattern. Oopsies. Just want to sort of have straight stripes for some unknown reason. I don't know yet. So I sort of roughly know where my shapes are going. So one window is sort of going to go here. So that this one's sort of going to go here. This one's sort of going to go up here. And these two are sort of going to go down here somewhere. So that's where I'm sort of building up my texture underneath. I'm going to come off the white. I'm going to come off onto the white a bit as well. Do I want cameras? Cameras don't really go today. All these numbers could be fun, but it's going the wrong direction. It still might work. See how I've got all my lines all going a vertical way? It's nice to sort of keep all your design elements going a vertical way, and it's sort of, your eye looks up and down. I'm trying to get this washi tape off. Some washi tapes are better than others. Especially when they're a bit old. They sometimes like to stick to each other. You can usually still peel them off and use them, but I'm just wondering. I'm going to have to stick this down. So again, this is one I want to tear. Because if I went and stuck it across this way, my design elements are all going to go downwards. So it's going to look a bit funny. So I sort of want it to look cohesive, if that makes sense. As I said, there's no right and wrong way to do an art journal page, but there are a few guidelines to sort of get a piece that is sort of pleasing to the eye and sort of looks correct. So as you can see, I'm sort of building up clusters. So I've got three over here and one over here. So I'm not just sticking it randomly anywhere. I'm sort of building up on these clusters. And as I add more stuff, I'm going to build and make these clusters bigger. I just want some of this dotty one up here. And I think I'm done with the washi tape. I do like to have the torn edges on the washi tape. I think it gives it a nice look. Because our paint is sort of all haphazard, I think it's nice to have the haphazard washi tape as well. There we go. So the great thing about using a silicone brush, I don't think I mentioned the silicone brush, it's basically a wedge of silicone instead of paintbrush. It's better for your gel medium because gel medium is a glue and it will clog up your paintbrushes. So I just use my palette knife or wedge spreader. You can use a credit card, you could use a piece of hard chipboard, basically anything that do it nice and straight. Now, what am I going to do now? Now I might do some what we call reverse stenciling. So I need to find my black, which I don't think I have here. Might have to pause and go find my black paint because I have every other colour in my bucket but black. And I'm going to choose a stencil and I'll show you how to do some reverse stenciling. So basically we're going to bring some black into it, more black into it, and tone down all this colour. I want little bits of the colour showing through, but I do want to tone down a lot of the colour to make my windows stand out. Okay, so I've located my black paint. So I'm going with the Dina Wakley paint. So the difference between these two is Delusions is a bit more liquidy, like runny, a paint. Dina Wakley is what we call a heavy body paint, so it's a thicker consistency. So it works a bit better on this technique. So what I want to do is some reverse stenciling. So traditionally we take a stencil, put it down our page, and we take a sponge or whatever we put our paint on and we scrape it through the holes of the stencil, so we end up with butterflies. So this time I'm going to do what we call reverse stenciling. So I'm going to put my paint down first, put my stencil over the paint and rub through. So basically the paint hidden under the stencil will be left and I'm going to rub out the holes. Now bear in mind this only works on paint because this is sealed the paper. It doesn't work on raw paper. So you've either got to seal your, if you want it to be white, you've got to seal your page with, say, a matte medium or a white gesso. So you're not working on top of raw paper. Does that make sense? So I'm wanting to keep in mind where, and I keep putting these bits back, sort of generally keep in mind where these are sort of going. So I want to sort of keep the orange and yellow bit here so they have a pop behind them. That and about that, and this is going to hang here. So I want to do sort of a bit here and a bit over here. I am going to bring it into the white a little. Okay, so I want a bit down here. Oops. So all I'm going to do is come up and over the washi tape as well, just down here a bit. And while that paint is still wet, I'm going to put my stencil on, and I had a wet baby wipe. Take the wet baby wipe and actually wipe through the stencil. So you want to be quite quick when you're doing this because you don't want your paint to dry. And as I said, it will come off the paint and the washi tape because we've sealed it with the matte gel medium a lot easier than the raw paper. So as you can see, I'm just wiping away through the stencil, and when we take it off, we have the design of the stencil left there. It's almost as if you're putting paint on the stencil and stamping it down. Now it does look quite dark. Don't worry, we will be lightening it up in a moment. So I just want to do a little bit down here. So this sort of stenciling only works when you've got, I just want to connect this and this, I think, an open stencil like this. So to put this down and rub your butterflies off, it doesn't work as well as this more open stencil. So this more open stencil, I'm just finding a clean bit of my baby wipe. This type of open stencil works really well. Sometimes you're able to wipe it back a lot, almost all the paint away. Sometimes it gets a bit grey, but it will work. And what I actually want to do is, I had a sponge before. I have cleaned up between classes, and I think I've put my sponge over on the sink. I'm just going to pause and get a sponge. Sorry, I thought I'd grabbed everything and was organised. Me organised, never. So what I want to do is actually bring a little bit of this design over to meet the white. So I'm just going to put a little bit of my paint out on my scrap paper, line my stencil up with where it was, and just do a little bit coming out on the edge. So I've just grabbed a makeup sponge, a little bit of a makeup triangle sponge, and I'm just going to dip it in my paint, then I'm going to dip it off onto my page. So I work that paint into the top of the sponge. You don't want to dip your sponge into your paint and go straight on your work. So I wanted this to be fairly, not really dark, so I want it to be fairly light. So I'm having not much paint in my sponge. So I can sort of hold my stencil and flick it up and see how it's sort of bringing that design out. I still want to leave a little bit of white. But I just want to extend that darkness a little bit. And I don't mind that this is sort of grey and fades out to grey. That's sort of the effect I'm looking for. I'm going to do some pen work over the top of this, which will calm it down as well. So I just want to do a little bit up the top here. So I'm also deliberately coming out beyond the white as well. So to sort of connect the white with the colours, you bring some of your elements out over from where the coloured bit is. I'm just doing an up and down motion. And I just want to do a tiny little bit. Almost nothing, but a little bit over here. I've got nothing on my sponge. Just want a suggestion of a bit down here. I don't want it to be dark, but I want a hint. There we go. You can almost see it, but you can't see it. It's coming along nicely. So this will give us a lot of areas to do some pen work in a minute. So again, keep bringing my shapes back in. I'm deciding what colour I'm going to do my shapes. I'm thinking I'm wanting them black, maybe with a bit of metallicness on them to make them stand out. This one's sort of going over here. So now I've got fairly quite bold stenciling here. I want to go in with some smaller ink work and just reached around to get my ink tray and my microphone fell off. So I'm sorry if you heard a crash. And I'm sorry if you hear noise from my office chair. I roll around on my office chair. I've sort of got all my supplies in like a little alcove and I think I've got them all. But then sometimes I forget something. So I'm trying to have everything sort of handy to where I can grab it when I need it when I'm filming and playing myself. So still got, wow, still got a lot of black on my silicone thing. So I'm just wiping this onto the scrap paper and I build up colours on my scrap paper and then eventually I will take it off and this becomes fodder for my art journal. So next time I do something light, I will do it over this and make it pretty patterns. Just going to dry it so I don't stick my hand in it. Dries really, really quickly because it was really, really thin laying. Okay. I said stamping, didn't I? So do I want black? Or do I want some coloured stamping? So often with art journaling, I really don't know. Oh, I've also got watering can, have I? Shadow grey. So often when I'm art journaling, I don't really know where the page is going until I sort of get there. So art journaling to me is more about the journey to get to the end of the page than having an idea in my head and going, okay, I'm going to exactly make this. Because things happen along the way and things change and you might do a technique and you find, oh, I don't really like that. It just depends on... So don't feel that you have to have an exact image in your head of what your page is going to look like at the end before you start. Like, I knew I wanted to play with these windows and I knew I wanted to leave sort of white space and do a bit more of an abstract. But apart from that, I have no idea what I'm doing. Ooh, those could work. Or that other stamp could work too. I know I want to use this dot one. I've just found these little foliage ones. Oh, they're a bit thick. I was just looking at these, but they're a bit thick in colour. I've got a finer foliage I'm going to use in a minute. So this is just a Craft stamp from Amethyst. I'm not sure whether this one's available anymore. So this is just a dot stamp that I love using because I love using dots. I could sit there and hand dot it, but when you've got a stamp, why not? Now, I'm not going to use a stamping block. For any stampers out there, you're probably going to have a heart attack because I'm not going to put this on a block. If I put this on a block and I stamped it, I'm going to get a rectangle. I don't want a rectangle. I just want to sort of take my fingers, whoosh it into ink, and then sort of just stamp little bits. And as you can see, I'm stamping once, twice, 3, 4 times before going back into my ink pad. That gives me different levels of blackness. And I just want to put some up in here and a few down here. So I'm just getting little bits here and there until I'm happy with where it's going. And then I'll just stamp off onto my dot paper to clean up my stamp. So I've got some dots, so we're building up our layers, and art journaling is all about building layers. So we had our paint, washi tape, stencil, stamp. Now what? I'm going to do pen work on this at the end, but what do I want to do? I did grab this stamp because I had the idea. These sort of look like maybe bird cages hanging, even though it's an abstract. So what I was thinking of having some sort of foliage, and I've got this lovely Art by Marlene stamp that I got from Hillbilly Scrapping. And I love these vines. So I think I might grab that little one out. Can't wait to play with these birds. Isn't that gorgeous? Cannot wait to do something like that. I reckon that will be fantastic. But we're going to use that small foliage. Sorry about the noise. Small foliage in this class. Hillbilly Scrapping, if you've done any of our in-person shows, we've just done Ballarat this year with Craft Alive. We're doing Wodonga. And I think that's the only other one we're doing with Craft Alive at the moment. But we are doing some with other companies as well. So this time I do want my stamping block. And I've got a circle one just because that's the one that I can find. So when we do in-person craft shows, Hillbilly Scrapping, which is a business in Swan Hill, and myself team up. I teach all her classes. I use my stencils, my chipboard, and my products with her products. So I might use her stamps or her paints. This all comes from her place. Or her inks, and we make some fantastic classes. And I teach all the classes because I like teaching, and it's better than serving customers. No. Hillbilly Scrapping says I am good at teaching, so I get to teach all the classes. I enjoy teaching too. So I'm going to see if I can curl. Is this going to curl? Sort of curl the frond foliage a bit. Now this one I have put on a stamping block because I want this one to stamp a little bit more perfect, if that makes sense. So I just want to have sort of little bits of the foliage coming out. And I want to watch where my stem is going because I don't really want to have the stem coming from sort of in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to hide the end of the stem sort of in the black. If you can sort of see that, I've sort of got one down here. Again, I'm following that downward motion of downward motion of strokes and stuff, things. So I'm actually going to turn my page upside down. I often do this to stamp and do things. So again, I just want a little bit, not wanting a lot of this, just sort of a little bit here and there. Again, extending it out onto the white, and that helps to tie it all together. And I'm not worrying if this is not perfect stamping. I'm not fatigued at all. I just want little bits of stuff. So I do want a little bit of it over here. And I want it going off the page. And then maybe this. Most of that one you won't see, but you'll see glimpses of it. Now, I'm going to put these back on. I'm forever putting my focal images back on just to check balance and positioning, and if I want to use them all, I may end up not wanting to use the whole 4 of them. Usually I put things on usually. There's no rules in art journaling, but there's a few sort of guidelines. Most of the time I put on 3 elements, but this is sort of a little cluster on its own. So if I've got 3 elements here, it's sort of balanced. And don't worry, this is very dark. I'm going to fix that up with some white pen in a minute. I'm happy with this cluster. I'm really happy with that. And I think that's going to be black. So let's put that stamp aside. And let's ink this up and make that black. So I'm just going to basically drag my ink pad over. Again, if I don't get 100% coverage, I'm not concerned. I sort of want it dark so it stands out. I could do this with like an alcohol pen. Usually I do it with if I want it really dark. Actually, I should be using my really horrid ink pad to do this. I have a really old black ink pad I usually do this with. It's not in my drawer. Oh, see how that nicely pops. Now, I think we want to do that with the other ones. Actually, I might pause and go get my old ink pad. Okay, back with my old ink pad. This is the one I usually do. See, it's a bit ratty. This one's about 15 years old. So this one I more do this with because I don't want to damage my good new ink pad. They don't even make this design of ink pad anymore. They are all this design. Hillbilly Scrapping felt sorry for me using a 15-year-old ink pad the other day, so she gave me a new one. She said, Melinda, just use the new one. I go, but I like my old one. So I use my old one for all scruffy stuff like this because I'm often scruffing up things. Now, that is getting a bit lost in that darkness, but as I said, we are going to lighten that up. So just make sure you are doing this on scrap paper, otherwise you'll get ink on whatever you're working on, your table or such. So again, I'm not sort of wanting 100% coverage. Now, because what we might do is actually put some silver highlights on these to make them pop a bit more. Often some of my embellishments get changed colours. That's why I don't colour them to start with. So I want to make, I'm trying to get the tip of it. So obviously they're getting a bit lost at the moment. Put it on back in the drawer so I know where it is next time. So often I won't colour my embellishments till almost at the end. Actually, if I drop that one down a bit, you'll see it. It'll be subtle, but it'll be there. So often I don't colour my embellishments before I start because I really don't know what colours they're going to be. I thought they'd be black, but if I colour them before I start, then I'm sort of... I can always repaint them. Black is hard to come back from. So I'm going to put this lovely stamp back in its package so things don't get lost. I cannot wait to play with these birdies. Maybe we need a birdie on our page, so I play with my birdies. I don't think they sort of go, and they're a bit big. If I used, oh, maybe I'll use one of the other, oh, I could use one of the other things that will look like a cage and a bird could sit on top. That's the problem with art journaling is you start one project and then you think of a few others you want to do. Loving Art by Marlene stuff at the moment. Just love, love, love her stuff. Okay. Now, I'm going to get my pen and do my pen work. So before we get our Posca paint pens out, we've got to make sure everything is completely dry because our paint pens don't like wet things. So I'm going to pause, give this a really good dry. Grab my white pens out to lighten this area up and then we will go from there. So this is coming together quite nicely. Now for my favourite bit, this is one of my most favourite bits, is the line work. This sort of work calms my brain down and I just enjoy sitting here and could sit here all day and fiddle. So there are two ways to do line work. Yes, you can take your stencil and line it back up and draw around your stencil, but I particularly don't for two reasons. Sometimes I just can't be bothered lining up my stencil, even though they are quite easy to line up. And I also like just sometimes going just inside the black, which I'll show you in a moment. So I'm using Posca paint pens, or I've got paint pens here. I've got a variety of different ones. I've got Posca paint pens in 1M, which is quite thin. I've got a gold and a white Pintor pen in 1mm. They're again paint pens, and I've grabbed this silver one, but I don't know, this one's quite old, it's in my drawer, and it's a quite fine one as well. Let's see if it works. May not work. If I want to use silver, I might have to sit and fiddle with that one. So what I find is with the line work, if I've got an area where it's too dark, which this bit is, and I purposely did it too dark because I purposely wanted to do line work on here, I can highlight it or lighten it up with white. Now, if I've got somewhere that's too light, I can go in with some black and darken it down. So start with black and white when you first start with art journaling and have that as a rule. Okay, this is too dark, I don't like it, go in with white. It's too light or white, go in with it, or too light on the colour, go in with it with a black pen. And then you can always add other pens down the way. So what I'm going to do is just do some outlining of shapes. And here, because we're actually outlining on this black bit that stayed under the stencil to tone it down, I'm not going to go on this grey bit. So I apologise if my head gets in the way. I do have low vision for any new people watching my classes. So sometimes I have to be quite close to do the line work. And I tend to turn my page around and move my piece of work around just so it's easier for me to know where to go. So I'm not going to do every piece, every line. I'm just going to pick a few bits that are too dark and just put some white lines on them. So it doesn't matter if you're a bit wiggly and you don't exactly follow the line of the stencil. As you can see down here, that's lightened that up already. It's not as dark as up here. So what are we going to do up here? I do like this crossy thing in the middle, so I'm going to make a feature of that. So you sort of pick out bits you want to make a feature, and I'm sort of leaving just a little bit of black, except when I stuff it up, just coming just inside of the black. So if you do go over it and miss a little bit or go a bit wayward, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to do a little bit over here. My paint pen is deciding to be a pain. This one may be on its way out. So what I find is sometimes I draw too quickly and the paint pen does not like me drawing too quickly. I just draw quickly because that's how my brain works. 100 miles an hour or nothing at all. And you will notice my pen is almost upright. It's not on an angle. So Posca paint pens like to sort of be upright, not as opposed to a 45-degree angle that you usually write with like a normal pen. And because it is paint, it's wet for 30 seconds to a minute. So just be careful. Can't talk today. Just got to be careful that you don't run your hand back into it. So as you can see, I'm always drawing above and coming down. I'm not putting my hand here and trying to draw back up. I will do parts and then come back to it. So I'm going to do this little bit in here. And I know half of this is out of shot, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm just sort of tracing around here. As I said, not doing everyone, just a little bit here and there, just to lighten it up a bit. Sometimes it's a bit hard to see where the lines are, so just make it up. In the whole scheme of things, it won't really matter if you put a line where there wasn't supposed to be a line. There is no nothing wrong in art journaling. Like, you can't do things wrong. And with this line work, it's sort of you do it until you're happy. And this is how I teach my in-person classes and also my virtual classes. Your happiness is different. So if you want to stop after doing just 2 or 3 shapes, go for it. Sometimes I will sit here and do line work over a layout for a couple of hours and do really intricate stuff because I enjoy it. Some people don't. So if you're happy where the layout is at the moment, stop. And that's what I say to people in my classes as well. Sometimes there are optional things to do in my classes, and in saying that, knowing when to stop. Sorry, can't teach you that one. Still learning that 20 years later. Knowing when to walk away from the pen and put the pen down is also something you've got to sort of work out by yourself, because it's hard to teach people when to stop. So as you can see, that's lightened it up already by putting that little bit of pen work on. It's amazing that it just transforms it. So I'm going to do this a little bit up here. I have my bottle of water near me. Filming 4 videos in a row, my voice is getting a bit scratchy. So even though this is on the white, I'm still going to sort of trace around. Because I've got the black, I've got this with white outline, I want to do some black over here. So when you're building 2 sort of clusters on the page like this, not a hard and fast rule, but my sort of guideline is what I do over here, I do up here in a little less thing. So it sort of matches, but this little one up here under my hand is more of a smaller version of this, if that makes sense. Clear as mud, right? And again, it's when you are happy with what it looks like. Stop. So at this stage, I might bring my daubs back in. and have a look to see what we've got. So they're the last things I will actually stick down. And I'm just wondering if I need a border or something. Usually it's something. Around the edge of my page, I'm just thinking. I sort of want to connect these a bit more, but only very slightly. And I need a quote on it too. Not always do I put a quote on things. I like this one. This one and this one are getting a bit lost, so I probably need to make them stand out. No, I still like that placement. See, I can move them around. So what I need is these need to stand out a little bit. Now, how are we going to do that? So I just want them to pop a little, but not much. So I sort of just want, let's try, we can always take it off. We don't have any gold or silver in here at the moment, so what I'm wanting to do is just put a tiny, I'm just going to move that part. Oh! I think I just lost one of my windows up and over and under my desk. That was intelligent. I have to go find that. Yeah, I have. I've lost the middle-sized one. Oh, shouldn't have flipped that up. So I'm just putting a gold line. I should edit that out so you don't think I'm a total idiot. Slight gold line around just the edge of the frame. Just putting the tiniest little amount on. I'm sorry if my head's in the way. I'll show you in just a second. I can't look up and see if my head's under the camera. If I move it, it's not where it was. So I'm barely touching the side of this just to give it a bit of a gold hint. So it'll pop out from the black where it was sitting. Oh wow, can you see that? Just that tiny bit of gold, and you're not going to see it everywhere. You're going to see it where it's on the darkest bits, and I like that. Okay, let me pause the video and go find that little shape that I swished across my desk, because now we're missing one, or I'll just go find a new one. Just bear with me a moment. Where are the kids when you need them to climb under your desk and find stuff you dropped? So this is the one that I want to put the gold around as well. So let's be very careful not swish another one under the desk. So just putting that gold line, just the faintest little line. I could do this with a gold ink pad. I have the paint pen sitting on my desk, so it works the same. So I'm just putting the lightest little line. Let's be very careful with our things so they don't fly around. Oh wow, see how that just pops out? Awesome. Okay, so I like that one up there. Now, actually I think I want to have that one slightly coming off the top, maybe. Actually, no, what I might do is draw a bit of string or something, maybe, or have a bit of a vine up there. So I'm happy with this one down here. I'm happy with the placement of that one. This one and this one look like it's floating. These don't, because they're sort of coming off dark areas. So what I might do is a little bit more foliage up here and foliage there. Then they'll look like they're sort of hanging. Like, they're fine to stick down as they are, but my brain and my just silliness, they just look like they're floating. And that's fine if you want things floating. Absolutely fine. But my brain says can't have things floating. So we're just going to do a little bit of foliage, just a tiny little bit. Sorry, just looking for my ink pad that had got buried under something. Do you all have this trouble when you art and craft? You lose things on your desk, you lose things on the side of your desk. So I'm just wanting to sort of have some foliage, but I don't really want it coming from mid-air. Actually, I probably want that a bit darker. So I'm just using that same Art by Marlene stamp, and now I've got to line it up again because I want it to be darker. Doesn't matter if I double stamp it, but I don't want to stamp all of it. I'm being oh so careful that the foliage is not sort of starting in the middle of air. It's just a thing. When I have people on my pages or when I have branches or things, they have to sort of not be hanging in midair. See how the tip is sort of just floating? If it was grounded, it wouldn't be such a problem with my brain, but this is, you're getting a lesson in Melinda's weirdness today. Nothing wrong with my weirdness. So I'm just putting 3 sort of bits there. See how that now looks like it's growing from a branch. Well, that's what my head thinks anyway. As I said, it could have been fine the way it was. It's just me. It's just me. I'm actually thinking, do we want to stick a Tim Holtz paper doll on our page? We'll put that stamp set away. Trying to be good and put stuff away lately and not leave it on stamp blocks and lose things eventually. So I'm much more happier. Oh God, words today. What I might do is while I've got that stamp, I've actually got, is it still up here? Please be still up here, is some scripty words. Can't have a page without scripty words on it. So this is an old primer stamp, and I apologise, this one is not available anymore, but they are loads of companies that make these sort of scripty words. This one has little pictures on it, which is kind of cool as well. She has like a bird cage. It does have bird cages and a bird's nest. Oh, how appropriate. Now, to get it up the right way, I just want to do a little bit of text here and there, and then I think we're getting towards the stage where we're done. Now, I could sit and fiddle with this for ages, but so just sort of randomly, and so putting it here, you can't see much of it, but it just adds another layer. So I'm just putting it in some random spots again, not putting it on a stamping block, just sort of wanting to extend, sort of connect these areas, but not like have a deliberate connect, if that makes sense. I don't know, it sort of made sense in my head when I said that. So it's sort of connected now because the wording, and I just want to do a little bit of wording up here. Oops, it's a bit hard. There we go. So the wording and this vine is sort of connected, so the two things, your eye leads from one to the other, if that makes sense. Welcome to the weird world of my brain. Stop. I think a little bit down here. Okay, stopping. I get a bit carried away when I start stamping. So it's fun to have your most favourite stamps and most basic stamps, like a script and a dot and stuff, in a little container on your table, so you don't have to go and find them every time you want to stamp something. So they're probably my most used design, is my little script and now this new dot one. Okay, so popping these back, and then we might decide if we want to put a Tim Holtz person on, because I've got a pack of these people over here that are just, oh, these are the groups. Or maybe the groups will be too big. I thought I had little people. This is his new group set, which I think are going to be too big. I was thinking a little person. Oh, got little people at the back here. No, that's a little. Or is it just going to look weird? No. I'm not going to add a person. To use the people on something else. So I think I am happy with that. All I probably want to do is stick those windows down, and what I want to do to stick them down with is a nice heavy glue, because they are a 400 GSM cardstock. They are quite heavy. They're quite heavy to stick, and something like a matte gel medium, it's only for sort of thin paper. So this one, the gel medium, is sort of for like photocopy paper or up to Kaiser weight cardstock, not cardstock, Kaiser weight paper and sort of stuff like that, like medium weight paper. These thicker ones need more of a strong glue. So this is Hellmark 450 and it's super quick drying, dries clear, and it's great for mixed media, and it holds buttons and chipboard, and we use this with all of our off the page and mixed media things. It is a gel, and mine's about a third of the bottle left, so it just takes a couple of seconds to come down the bottom. So for this particular piece, I don't need to get glue everywhere. I'm going to pick the fattest bits, which is this bottom bit here, and just put a little bit of glue, and a little bit up here. Make sure I've got no cobwebs in my window, so glue strings, and then stick it. I think I had it closer up. A bit closer up. This glue, if you put it in the wrong spot, you can sort of rub it and it will come off in a ball, and it comes off your finger in a ball too, which is really cool. So this is nice quick drying glue as well. So just putting it across the sort of fattest bits and make sure I get some on all four sides. And I've just got a glue string which I will grab with a pen, so I don't put glue on anything else. I can put glue on a pen. Wouldn't matter if there was a glue string there, it just looked like a cobweb. I'm not doing a Halloween page today, I don't want a cobweb on there. So here we just want to stick this up there and hold it for about 30 seconds and get stuck down. So the last thing I'm going to do to my page is I actually want to just put a little bit of a black border around the edge. 99% of the time I do border my pages. Now sometimes it can be a really, really intricate border that I build into the design. Sometimes it can be just a scribbly line. In this instance, it's just going to be a little bit of ink. And this one will probably be put on display at my upcoming shows. I'm starting to work a lot more on paper. Usually I like only working in books, but I have to do some on paper. It's hard to have my books on display at the shows. I am loving that. Now all I'm going to do is take this older ink pad. Just checking what time it is. Oh, plenty of time. And all I'm going to do is hold my paper and just dust on the edge. Doesn't matter if it's a bit more scruffy in some spots. So what's that going to do? That is just going to finish it all off and give it an edge and sort of tie in the white bits. Oh, I'm loving how that turned out. Love it, love it, love it. Sometimes I get to an art journal page and I get to the end of it and go, okay. Art journaling to me is more about spending time out of my day, sitting down and playing, more than this is a masterpiece, it's going to hang in the Louvre in Paris. Like, art journaling can be very personal, so you can create this piece, and yes, my pieces are all over YouTube and the world. That is my choice as a designer. But if you make something and you're not happy with it at the end, that's fine. You have a look at it, decide why you're not happy. Okay, there's too much dark here. Maybe that's what you don't like about it, or you don't like the colour combinations, or you don't like the washi tape. Maybe it's too dark or too prominent. So work out why you don't like something, and then next time you go to Art Journal, have fun creating again and change the colours, change the way you did something. That's how I treat art journaling. So at the end, if I don't love the page, that's okay. But I do love this one. This one's come out rather cool. Most of the time I do like what I've made. Sometimes I take it one step too further and go, I might add something and go, oh my God, what was I thinking? But again, learn from your mistake and don't do it again. But have fun. Okay, so thank you very much for being part of the Great International Craft Show here in Australia. And if you're watching this on a replay at a later stage or in the library, welcome. If you've got any questions or you want to ask anything, don't hesitate to contact me through Scrapbookingncraft. That's in the title of the video, I think, as well. That's my business name, and that's how you can contact me through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all those places. Thank you very much for watching. I will take some close-up photos and some still photos and put them at the end, because I understand that it's hard to see detail when we are so far away and the lighting in here is not the best. Actually worked out really well that the washi tape is either side of here. It sort of frames it a bit as well. That was a happy accident, wasn't it? Thank you very much for watching, and I will let you go. Bye for now.